Hello everyone, welcome to our 6 to Fix in 6. This one is on human error prevention. Now when we ask for opinions and views on what we should cover in these short, sharp sessions that give you just the essentials, human error prevention was probably in the top 3. So clearly it's a challenge that many of you are facing. Now, when we designed our human error prevention course, probably 15 years ago, we spent a lot of time with the experts in human error prevention, whether they be in the military, whether they be in aviation, the automobile or the oil or nuclear power industries. These are sectors or industries that have worked really, really hard over many, many years to reduce human error to the lowest level possible. So what we did is to identify the top 10 characteristics. What did all of these do? They did them slightly differently, but they all did these 10 things exceptionally well. Now, we don't have time to go through each of these. We actually provide a comprehensive review on our training course on human error prevention, and you'll also find a more detailed explanation in our library of free resources. But what I want to do in the time we have is to take number 1. Because what was a key characteristic of these companies, these industries that have really succeeded in driving down human error was their attitude to problems. They actually viewed problems as learning opportunities rather than inconveniences, painful experiences that they just wanted to deal with very, very quickly. Their attitude, their philosophy was, look, what can we learn from it? How can we drive continuous improvement as a result of the mistake? So there's a question for you here. What do all of these have in common? There's Viagra, there's Post-its, there's Velcro, there's penicillin. We could have put up a number of others there. Well, the answer is these have all come from errors and mistakes. So in each of these occasions, the person responsible didn't dismiss that mistake as a painful inconvenience. They actually took a step back and said, this is interesting. What can we learn? How can we leverage this? So what's really important is understanding that a positive attitude to errors is actually number 1 in best industry practice when it comes to error prevention. And these are the 6 to fix, your 6 to fix for positive attitude to errors and mistakes. Number 1, what option do you have anyway? You have two alternative approaches when a mistake happens. You can view it negatively, painfully, and dismiss it and put the quick fix in, or you can alternatively take the attitude of, you know what, it's happened, we don't have a choice, we can't change it, but you know what, let's just learn from it. Be really careful with metrics here, because often the metrics drive that negative attitude, that negative behaviour. If you have a metric that measures or encourages people to drive down deviation incidents, that is actually communicating that deviations, mistakes, problems are bad. That, in our opinion, is the wrong metric. So number 1, take the positive approach, because you know what? That's the only viable alternative. Number 2 is really to control that instinctive response when a mistake has happened. After a long day at work, your co-worker or your supervisor, your operator, maybe even your boss knocks on the door and says, I've made a mistake and the cost is X. Quite often that instinctive response is a very emotional response, that fight, flight or freeze response, and often that response is very negative. And that leads to deteriorating a situation. So to control that emotion, just have a look at another one of our 6 to fix in 6 on decision making, where we'll describe the garrote process of decision making, where you prevent that from happening. Number 3 is tackle the problem immediately. When a situation happens and somebody communicates that problem to you, when they realise they're not going to get blamed for it or they're not going to suffer any pain from it, you'll be amazed at their creative thinking that can be then applied immediately to solving it. But you've got to do it straight away. Number 4, don't underestimate the power, the value of really, really good precise questions that start to explore the reason why that mistake happened. Rather than focusing on the person or the individual, you're more interested in the systems and the procedures, not the person. We'll talk a little bit about questions later. Number 5 is explore differences of opinion. Inevitably, when mistakes happen, there's differences of opinion as to what caused it. The essence of creative problem solving is in understanding those differences of opinion. And number 6 is let the owners of the problem, the instigators if you like, be part of the solution by allowing them to implement. In doing so, they actually learn. The power of questions is worth examining in a little more detail. You know, when something goes wrong, when an operator or a supervisor knocks on your door and tells you the batch has gone down the drain, instead of the emotional response, the power of questions as to, okay, talk me through what and why and when and where, not the who. Remember, you're focusing on the systems and practices rather than the person. Okay, what are the consequences? What are the alternatives? How can we prevent this happening? How can we learn from this? How can we make it easier and simpler to stop it happening again? So questions are really, really useful in achieving that. Henry Ford had a wonderful quote I often use. He said that failure is the opportunity to begin again, this time just more intelligently. So that really epitomizes best industry practice number 1, which is you take a positive attitude to problems rather than a negative one, and you'll go a long way to eliminating human error. So finally, your call to action. If you want more information on human error prevention, please go to our library of free resources. There's lots of YouTubes, webinars, there's lots of white papers that will fill in some of the gaps on those other best-in-class practices. Please come along to our renowned course on human error prevention, where we talk about this in a lot more detail and you get the opportunity to practice as well. Any more information, please just contact me at that email address. And again, if you've enjoyed this short, sharp video, please share it with others. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel.